You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today, Miss Marvel episode 4.
We just watched it.
We just watched it.
In the basement.
We just watched it in the basement. And as I was watching it, I had this realization that I was like, I thought it was episode 5. So I was a little bit disappointed it wasn't 5.
Yeah.
But now that it's 4, it makes me more excited for it being episode 5 next week.
We haven't seen episode 5
next
week.
Exactly. So it's important that you guys know that we love 5.
We do
and
love
it's
5.
an important number.
And when it's coming next week, I think.
It is coming next week.
Which, it's after 4.
We're so excited. It's right after 4.
Woohoo!
How crazy is that? All right, so picking up with Miss Marvel, episode 4. So again, the series, I want to say, I think episode 4 has gotten pretty good reviews. Have you seen? I haven't seen much.
I've watched like 2 YouTube videos. I saw some comments on social media. But most of the feedback I'm seeing seems to be pretty positive from this episode.
Pretty positive. I do think I see the positive aspects. I really do. But in all honesty, I was a little bit disappointed. The way this series has been going has been, pretty good. The coming of age part was missing from this episode, and that was the part I was missing.
Yeah, she's kind of like fully accepted, kind of who she is, and she's like she seems really grounded,
right?
With her powers, and kind of she's lost that childlike wonder, and I think the show has kind of been going for that, but it doesn't fit with the first 3 episodes, right? Like with a 16-year-old girl like they're showing, I feel like she should still have that wonder,
Yeah. And it kind of pulls a Moon Knight in a sense, because it goes from this show about this coming of age story of this girl in Jersey Shore, I guess that's where it is, and or Jersey City, whatever it is, and it goes from that, and then of course it talks about her life in going to Pakistan, and it kind of pulls a Moon Knight in a sense because episode 3, went to Egypt and was full on Egyptian stuff. So it kind of does that, and it's a very different show. Like right off the bat, you're like, okay, we're in a new setting, and we're just doing new things and different things, which I think is really cool. And I do appreciate the cultural aspects of this episode, but I don't think it delivered as best as it could have done it. If that makes sense.
No, I completely agree with you. Just as an overall recap before we start getting into it, I think they're, like you said, their culture that they showed, their cinematography, was the best aspect of this episode. But it severely lacked when it came to some of the dialogue.
I agree.
It was extremely cheesy.
Right.
The other episodes were meant to be cheesy.
Yeah, and
it hit that. But this one wasn't meant to be cheesy, and it still was.
It was pretty cheesy. And like you said, of course, the earlier episodes were cheesy on purpose and in a good way.
Yeah, and this worked.
It worked very well. And this episode was cheesy in not a good way. So that was disappointing to me. And also, it's just kind of like, I'm having a struggle to seeing where the story is really going, if that makes sense.
Yeah. First of all, I don't really understand why they're in Pakistan. My part of that is that, I guess I wasn't paying too good of attention. But I struggle to see it in the grand scheme of the 6 episodes on Disney Plus, where this is leading
to. Exactly.
What's
we know
the
it has a lot to do with
the stakes?
The Jinn and the ClanDestines, that whole storyline. And I can see that and see them as the villains, but they're not the best villains so far.
They're terrible.
Yeah. So
I mentioned to you earlier, they don't have anything physically that stands out about them.
Exactly.
They just look like a bunch of mercenaries. Yes, we know they have powers, but when I see them, I don't think like supernatural.
Really,
I
really think it'd be a lot more interesting if, like, in the dark or something, they look different. Like, they look more like Genie, Jinn,
or they had different
like
eye color.
Right.
And they had plenty, like the one scene where they're in like the one underground like raft thingy, right? It could have like gone like completely dark and they started glowing. Something like that would have been.
It would have been cool. I mean, it may not have worked for a lot of people, but I think it would have been cool for me personally. But
the villains just aren't hitting for me so far
I agree.
in this show.
I agree. So to get into the episode, we see Kamala, traveling to Pakistan to visit with family over there in Pakistan, because obviously they're from there. And they land and they meet up with grandmother. The grandmother. Bob, what do they call him in Pakistan? The Babu or whatever. I forget.
Dude, I don't speak Pakistani.
I don't speak Pakistani, regrettably. But they meet up with her. And they go to stay with her, and the grandmother reveals that Kamala herself is a Jinn. So what do you think about that?
I don't know about that decision, man. I really don't. I mean, in the comics, is she a Jinn?
No.
I know this show, obviously, they can take liberties, right, from the comics, but that just seems like a very odd thing to add into the mix when the villains are the Jinn.
They have to change a lot, obviously, if they're changing the identity of her powers and, coming from the Terrigen Mist,
which I still don't agree with.
Right,
it would have made way for the Inhumans to come in really nice.
Yeah, it would have been a way better. If
we
they
don't want
did
it to
with the
look
Terrigen
like
Mist.
Mr. Fantastic.
I mean, even if they did do like the blue crystal diamonds powers kind of still, and just had it come from the Terrigen Mist of the Inhumans, that would have been cooler to me. And just have like influence from the Inhumans and like say that they're real and mentioned in there.
Mention it, like give a gateway for their like introduction into the universe.
And I do know that Iman Vellani fought actually for a Lockjaw cameo in this show, which she didn't get, but that would have been cool. Just a little cameo to Inhumans.
Yeah,
you know?
It would have.
Because I mean, she is an Inhuman, so.
Kevin Feige, what you doing, man?
Yeah, what you doing?
What you doing?
I don't appreciate it. But we have to talk about, of course, some of the highlights of this episode because there were some. It wasn't just a complete dud. So, I mean, that's obviously got it going for it. So the cultural aspects, again, were really cool. The shots, like we talked about earlier. But in the actual show itself, what was cool is the more realism between family ties again with the mother and grandmother specifically, getting to know them better and getting to know that, you know, the mother didn't have the best relationship with their grandmother after the father left them, allegedly. And just getting to know and getting more character to the mother and getting to know the grandmother was really actually a nice addition to this episode.
Yeah. It felt kind of weird, maybe at least in this sense, with the specific setting. But I really did get to enjoy seeing the mother's backstory. You know, for so long, well, not for so long, it's only been 4 episodes. Yeah. But for the show, we see her as this really strict, protective parent, and we never get anything about her past, why she doesn't want Kamala to do so-and-so. And in this one, we get to see her story fleshed out with her mom, so we understand why she's protective, why she's kind of like, you know, a helicopter mom. I've always liked the mom. She's a cool character. Yeah. And the grandma was a really nice addition into that, I thought.
And I would have liked from this episode, you know, to see, you know, it's cool to see the culture, but Kamala Khan in this culture, she's not, I mean, her heritage is from Pakistan, but her herself is not.
Yeah, she's from Jersey.
I would have liked to have seen her to be a little bit more vulnerable in this episode, more awkward in situations than she was. She excels a lot of confidence, which is not a bad thing. And she is a very confident character.
For a 16-year-old girl.
A 16-year-old girl in a country with family members she barely talks to. Yeah. You would expect more awkwardness to come from her. Yeah. And we didn't really get that.
I'd be completely shut up, first of all. But,
for sure.
I mean, props to her. I do like how the writers of the show, they had her, and the directors, they had her wearing, you know, still her same old, you know, clothes. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe that does play into the confidence thing, but to me, that just screams that, you know, she's just kind of herself, and maybe she doesn't care, maybe she does, but it's kind of weird the amount of confidence she's showing.
I agree.
Especially in these fight scenes, because she's had powers for like a week or so, and she's taking on freaking assassins,
and she's doing a pretty good job.
I'm like, brother,
unless it's like just her powers doing it for her.
Last episode, the wedding scene, she should have gotten absolutely demolished.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I mean, you talking about a group of 100-year-old supernatural warriors against a 16-year-old girl who just learned she has powers.
Yeah. It's really
not believable.
Really odd. And then of course we have the introduction of the character, the Red Dagger, who comes into play, and then we have this probably my least favorite part of the episode, to be honest, is the introduction of the Red Dagger.
Yeah.
I didn't really like it.
They I feel like they try to build his character up into some intimidating threat. But first of all, I'm pretty sure the kid's like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
I have my friend in high school, his name is Connor. He looks like him, low key. Like he for real does. But he's just not that intimidating. He's kind of a jerk. And I just don't feel like they write him very well. He's only in a limited number of comics. No one knows really who he is.
Exactly. And I feel like they're trying to make him another love interest when we've already got several in the show.
We've got Cameron, and then we've got Cameron, I don't know how you say it. And then Bruno,
which everybody loves Bruno. So like,
Bruno.
You know,
Everybody
bring me Bruno. So like, why are they bringing in another one to add on to this more triangle?
Yeah.
And everybody knows like love triangles are way overdone. They are just kind of over it.
Yeah,
this point.
And realistically, that doesn't really happen that
not
much.
Often.
So stop glorifying
not very
it,
often.
I feel like.
Yeah, it is very heavy in Hollywood, and I'm over it. So, I mean, you know, so Hollywood, step up your game because love triangles aren't the game anymore. You know, aren't the thing. They aren't the thing.
Spit it.
But yeah, so that whole scene and the cheesy dialogue I'm talking about Ninja Turtles. I mean, they don't even know each other, and they talk like they did.
This part is weird because he's freaking attacking there, and he's throwing like daggers at her face. Like he's going obviously for a kill shot, and they're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're talking about Donkey Kong. They're having like a full blown weird conversation as he's trying to kill her.
They're having a conversation that you would have with like your sibling, like when you're talking or whatever.
Yeah.
And just like when you really know somebody, that's the conversation you have. You wouldn't, like, when you're in the middle of a fight, honestly, you're probably not going to be talking, period.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And, not to discredit the whole scene, some of the stuff that he did was cool, like running on her arm, and, they're fighting up on her little, like, path that she's standing on. But the dialogue, to me, like, ruined that scene,
I agree.
man.
I agree.
Like, really?
Yeah. No, you were 100% right, because, I mean, some of the stuff was cool, but even the fight choreography in that scene wasn't that appealing to me. Personally.
No, I agree. I think there's way better fights as episode went along.
I do agree. All right, and we learn a little bit more about the Jinn, which we know they are the ClanDestines. So a little bit of comic history for you guys who do not know who the ClanDestine is. So they are a very, very, very minor characters in comics. So it's really, really shocking, because I didn't even know who they were until I saw it in a TikTok. So information right there. So the ClanDestine are in like a total of like 22 to 24 comic book issues, period. Wow. And there are like millions of comic book issues in Marvel. So that's insane in itself. So, and they're not very much in Miss Marvel comics. So they have like their own comic reign, and they are like Jinn and all this, the genies and stuff like that. But they're very, very small and minuscule characters.
So my question to you is then, if you're the director, and I'm asking you this, like, what would you say? Like, why would you make that the villain then?
Oh, yeah.
If it's that small, do you think it's just like for representation, or you think they're just
100%.
trying to pulse, a group that we don't know about? Or?
They are trying to do a little bit of both of what you said. Like, the representation aspects are very much there. Not only that, but like, again, what you said with the, what was it?
I'm just saying, like, they're just pulling like a random group
like,
you don't know.
They wanted a group you don't know.
They can kind of like sculpt it into whatever they want.
Right. But if I was the director of Miss Marvel and like was a big showrunner of this, I would make it to where, again, I would rewind it back. I wouldn't show her Pakistani culture now. I would wait for that. I would keep it with the coming of age storyline. Obviously, I would have kept it in the Inhuman realm, and I would have made it very much more Inhuman centered. I would have brought in Inhuman characters. I would have brought in an Inhuman villain. Instead of it being more just about this cosmic Jinn stuff. Yeah. Supernatural.
And to be honest, like, as a consuming MCU fan, that whole cosmic Jinn stuff is not very appealing to me.
Right.
Like, if I want to see something about the Jinn, I'd watch Supernatural.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. But I want to see like something Marvel. And I just thought this, but this whole villain situation is like really reminiscent of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Where kind of like doing the bad writing.
Yeah,
like,
the Flag Smashers.
Yeah, the Flag Smashers. Well, exactly. You have a group of villains that are supposed to be pretty bad with good motives that you don't care for and you can't really relate to, that kind of just drag the show down.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Like, there's so many other characters that they could pull and make a really more interesting show. But one thing I do appreciate is the idea of digging deep into dimensions of the Marvel universe. Yeah. Because obviously we've been dealing with multiversal stuff, and then Shang-Chi kind of opened up the realm of dimensions, that there are other dimensions out there, and this is bringing more into that. So I think that aspect is cool. What do you think about dimensions in Miss Marvel?
Well, I think that's something I've always wanted to see more of. I know they're expanding into the whole multiverse, and that's cool, I guess. But initially, what we got to see with Doctor Strange and what we've seen a little bit from here, the different dimensions in that universe, I feel like are sometimes more intriguing than just a different universe.
Right.
So I'm glad they're doing it, and I really wish they would kind of pursue that storyline a little more with their Bengals rather than the Jinn.
Yeah, I agree. Honest. I agree. And we see, of course, them talking about the Jinn Zone and wanting them to take over the world. And again, another Avengers level threat opening up into a Disney Plus 6-episode series.
6 episodes with a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah. Who nobody knows.
So,
and nobody else knows about what's going on.
I know, obviously, right?
Like, how many crazy things happen in this universe that everybody just wants to take over Earth? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. By the way, we want to take over Earth. Yeah. 6 months later, you know what? And you know what? It's always some rando who gets powers.
Facts.
Who decides they, have a training montage and beat this
For sure.
group.
It worked the first time. It worked the first time, but it didn't work the 17th time.
Another Avengers will show up? Okay,
no, it doesn't make sense. Like, cool. It makes me more and more not wanting to live on this planet because, freaking 2012, you have Loki invading the New York, and then Ultron wanting to take over the planet and drop a supersized city into the Earth's core, and then you have half the population dying, and then coming back. Like, dang.
All I want to see is some villains within the original idea. I know everything's basically been done, but this whole world, culture expansion, world domination thing has been done
so many times.
And the Jinn are just falling, just along the wayside with all the other poor villains that we've seen.
Right.
Like, maybe what if it was like just personal? Like the leader of the clandestines just had a thing for Kamala's family. I think that'd be a little more pulling because the show centers so hard on their family.
I think they really should.
Just wanted to kill them.
I think it would work a lot better and do a lot better if it was more ground based. Instead of it being this super ultra earth destroying threat, it should be a threat to her family.
Yeah,
and that would be better.
Exactly, and that plays into the whole religion, their whole culture. Like that's who they are.
Right,
it's family. So like, come on, man, stop giving us a world domination thing with everything.
We don't need that again. But again, with more positive stuff, the ending fight scene was actually really, really well done and really shocking for a show to this level of people getting stabbed and ran over and stuff like that.
I know, it's PG, so
it is. So
I know they can't have blood.
No,
but when we were watching the fight scene, I was like, "This is pretty cool," and I'm surprised these people getting stabbed.
And our guy died. How depressing was that? We don't even know his name.
Bearded man bun guy.
He was a pretty dope character.
He was cool.
He got killed by Lady William Dafoe. So,
but
depressing.
Sad man.
Sad
he threw them daggers into the wall, then he jumped on him. That was cool.
Right. And then probably my favorite part of the episode is when she got stabbed in the band. Kamala, the band blocked it.
Yeah.
And then she travels, it looks like back in time almost, into what you said is the negative zone, possibly.
I think it's a negative zone from what we see in the comics, but I'm not too sure.
I don't think it necessarily would be the negative zone because if, a little bit of knowledge about the negative zone, that is just kind of a place of nothingness. And that's also a place where they put their futuristic prison later on in the comics.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'd be necessarily the negative zone.
It could be.
Or if she traveled into like a past dimension or whatever. Because obviously she's seeing like immigration and that kind of stuff. And like what happened to her grandmother and all that kind of stuff. So,
dude, I don't know, man. I don't think she's physically in the past. I think it'd be a look.
I don't think she is. I think she's just seeing it, glimpse into it, right? So, which that scene itself, like the whole look of the people, seeing that culture, seeing the immigration, it was, and the music, dude, made
the
it.
way it was shot, because it starts with her getting up at the top, but it slowly zooms out, and you see all these people, right? They're immigrating. You see like the steam, the smoke coming from the engine.
Right.
See all the clusters of people. That was cool.
It was really, really awesome. And the show was really well shot. This episode was. So.
But I will say, I'm kind of confused on why it ended on that specific note. You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that a cliffhanger or it's like leading to the next episode?
Right. I guess what they're trying to get across is they really want us to like think about where she is and think about what's going on with her and her powers and to just really kind of think on that for a week. And then when we come back, we'll see what's really happening maybe and get some more answers. Because, we only got 2 episodes remaining and they got a lot of work to do in order to build it back up again.
That just doesn't seem very appealing to me. Like, it's building up to the backstory of the Bengals.
Yeah.
Like,
this
what
show,
is that?
This show is something that, like, I can see, like, it had a really good start and it's been pretty solid still. And it's still pretty solid. Like, episode 4 wasn't bad by any means.
It's not bad.
But it's something that I can see it going down and not being perfected in a 6-episode miniseries. Like that's a lot of problems is they really need to 8-10 episode these series because 6 is just not cutting it
also
anymore.
Not give them out one at a time.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, this would have functioned better as a binge.
It would. Miss Marvel would have
hype going from episode to episode.
Right. It would function better. And people were like, "Oh, binge Marvel is probably ideas are probably like, well, binge shows they don't they talk about them for a week." And then it's gone. Listen, and all the hype.
I don't know anyone talking about Miss Marvel for an entire week.
I know that for sure. And they're like, oh, we want to continue the hype. But my thing is, the perfect example of a well-written binge show that is talked about for weeks and months on end, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
They're still talking about Stranger Things. A lot of that's Volume 2 hype coming Friday, of course. But even after that, I guarantee it'll be talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks. Just because of how good it is.
It's well-written. And obviously, this is not nearly on the same scale. But WandaVision had hype going from episode to episode. Not just because it was the first Disney Plus show, because it was intriguing and as a concept.
It was a show that benefited for sure on the weekly thing because it needed to be weekly, but some of these other shows definitely don't need to be. And I think if they take their time with these shows instead of just trying to give us content, which we love, but at the same time it's so overwhelming now that we're not loving it as much as we should. And if they take their time, they make it 8 to 10 episode series. They really take their time in writing it. Don't put it out series. Focus on the movies and the storytelling. Then give us the shows similar to Stranger Things and give that value. Give them the budget they need. It would do really well. But they're not doing that.
I agree. And like you said, Disney can't, I don't think, pick and choose between which series, get released at once versus, weekly. They're not going to do that. So, unfortunately, I think we're going to stick with this format right now. But like I said, I think it's hurting this show as of right now.
I do. So we'll see what happens. But overall, I am hopeful, and I do have faith for it because it has been pretty decent and enjoyable to watch. So we'll see what happens.
All right, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Apple Podcast is the word. I just want to, take a quick moment. I've been just seeing, me and Michael, rather, we've been seeing a lot of love on our Morbius episode.
Yes.
And obviously you guys should, because you're talking about the greatest movie of all time.
Facts.
We're talking about Morbius, made a more $1 billion.
Marvel
and
Legends.
now we have a more $1 billion downloads. So thank y'all for listening to quite possibly the greatest movie. The greatest review of the movie, even.
Yeah, that's facts. Thank you guys.
So thank you for that. Obviously, the support for the other episodes, we really appreciate that.
We appreciate that. And Miss Marvel.
That's right.
Yeah.
As far as announcements go, episode 5.
Episode 5. The best of the
favorite
series.
number. It's gonna be the best.
Oh, for sure.
I'm calling it right now. It's gonna be a big build up. Something cool is gonna happen. Paul Rudd's gonna show up. So
please
calm down there.
Paul Rudd.
So Paul Rudd in episode 5 confirmed. So stay tuned. It's dropping Thursday, 5 a.m. So wake up early if you want.
Yeah. Go work out. Listen to Miss Marvel podcast. Woo! Get you pumping. Get your blood flowing. All right. We just want to thank you guys for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.